Se você curte Segunda Guerra Mundial e já está cansado de avançar por trincheiras e cenários europeus, certamente deve ter ouvido falar em World of Tanks. Lançado há 5 anos, o game foi apresentado pela primeira vez ao público brasileiro pela Wargaming, produtora do título, na XMA Mega Arena 2015. Alguns funcionários da empresa estiveram por aqui, entre eles Chris Cook, diretor de comunicações para a América do Norte, com quem a equipe do BJ teve a oportunidade de conversar. Confira o que rolou no bate-papo. World of Tanks was released 5 years ago, and this is the first time you guys from Wargaming are coming to Brazil. Why did it take so long to appear here in our country?
I think it took a little long time because when we first launched World of Tanks, it was primarily focused towards Russia and Eastern Europe, and we kind of let the game grow, and then we kind of launched it in Europe. We launched it in North America. We launched it in Asia. So it took a little bit of a long time, but what we really wanted to do is make sure that we had a really large and stable fan base all around the world. And then now, as we're really expanding in North America and growing bigger, it's natural for us to start looking at South America and Latin America. So we apologize for the wait, but we wanted to make sure that we had a good base of players and a good infrastructure to make sure that when we do finally come into a country like Brazil, that we can really support it the best we can.
Now that we were talking about Brazil, we know you have plans to release a Brazilian version of World of Tanks. Can you tell us something about it?
Sure. So actually the game is already localized in Brazilian Portuguese, both in the text and the voiceover. So anyone who wants to play in Brazil, they can play the game. They're going to hear Brazilian Portuguese. They're going to be able to understand everything they want.
But do you have plans to have servers here and support and things like this, all this stuff to help Brazilian players?
I'd say long term, yes. The first step that we just completed recently was we've worked with a lot of internet service providers in Brazil to make sure that their network routing is advantageous to Brazilian players, not in giving them an advantage in the game, but making sure that their latency speeds and their pings are much better. And so far, just based on talking to ISPs, we've seen the ping drop dramatically for Brazilian players. To keep going with that, we're going to start investigating things like having servers in different parts of the US that are closer to Brazil, maybe the idea of having a server in Brazil itself, but those are a little bit more long-term kind of ideas that are going to take us a while to look into.
I think you realize that we here in Brazil, we love this kind of things about esports and things like this. And I know the scenario about esports related to World of Tanks outside's bigger. Do you have plans to support this kind of things here in Brazil too officially?
Absolutely. I can't talk about specific leagues or details yet, but esports obviously is a huge focus for us as a company and specifically Brazil. We wouldn't be at XMA right now in Brazil if esports wasn't a priority for us. So we're going to be doing a lot of work. We're going to be working with a lot of local people here in the country to really find out and put together esports activities that really cater towards Brazilian players. We're going to hopefully have some more information about that very, very soon.
Okay, talking about World of Tanks, can you share any news about the game that you guys are going to release in the next months? Kind of updates or things like this?
Sure. So I can't talk about future updates that we haven't announced yet, but we had an update go out recently, 9.7. One of the big things about update 9.7 was it added a new mode called Team Battles. And what that actually does is it's actually focused really heavily on esports. It changes the game mode to be faster and to encourage players to be more active. One of the complaints we got in the past was that a lot of times teams would just kind of camp out in certain spots, and then at the very end of the match, they would all just rush into each other, and it was kind of chaotic. The revision to team battles now, there's a shorter timer, and there's also different control points that players can capture, and what that does is that encourages people to be more aggressive, encourages them to play faster. And what we've seen so far is, and we had our grand finals last week in Warsaw, in Poland, which is our sort of world championship for World of Tanks, and we used this new format, and it was much more exciting for players, much more exciting for the people watching, and it sped up the pace of the game dramatically.
You also have Wargame, besides your games, you have World of Warplanes and World of Warships. Do you have plans to bring these games to Brazil too, or just World of Tanks?
I think we do have plans. As far as how long it's going to take, we're not really sure yet. we kind of have to go in different steps, and obviously World of Tanks is our biggest game, so that's the main priority for us for Brazil. So we want to make sure we take our time to bring the game to the country, make sure that we build a good community, make sure we're supporting esports. After a while, once World of Tanks PC is well established here in Brazil, and then I think we're going to start looking at warplanes and warships.
Okay, if we can count now, you have World of Tanks, World of Warplanes, and World of Warships. What's next? Worlds of Submarines or something like this?
So we actually have more than those three. We have World of Tanks for Xbox 360, and we just announced a few months ago the same game for Xbox One. And the cool thing about that game is that multiplayer-wise, 360 players will be able to play against Xbox One players. It's one of the first titles on the Xbox One or 360 to support that. We also have World of Tanks Blitz, which is for iOS and Android tablets. And we also have a game now called World of Tanks Generals, which is going to be a browser and mobile game that's it's like a strategic collectible card game. So that just finished up a beta period. World of Submarines, I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe. But right now, I'd say probably for a company, the big focus we have now on is warships. It's in closed beta right now. We want to release it this year. So far, the response from everyone who's played it has been awesome. So we're really focusing on World of Warships, making it as good as we can to get it out this year sometime.
Ok, Chris, thanks for your time. É isso aí, pessoal.